Welcome everyone. Welcome again to a new day of CERT.LV provided conference Cybershock. Our team at the CERT.LV has worked really hard together with you, with the community, to provide the best content possible and the best entertainment for you. I'm your host and the program director, Bernhard Blumbergs from the CERT.LV. Today, we are going to venture a bit deeper into the darker places of the internet and the darker activities on whatever you may do, either it's offensive operations or looking into the darker sides of the internet. However, before we dive into the content for today, I would like to tell about the CTF. Now, I will provide you with a more in-depth view in what happened in the CTF at the closure of the day before we announced the winners. However, the CTF has not slept. The people have worked all night long to achieve the results. There has been fight for the first 3 places, really intense one. And as I say, the Capture the Flag event has been ongoing for the past, more than 24 hours. Now, the CTF is provided to us by our partners. One of those is our long-term partner from Estonia, the Cybersecurity Technologies, and together with CTF Tech. They are hosted on the Tet Group infrastructure, and the prizes to the winners are provided by the Cyber Circle, and all of those are our long-term partners. We at the CERT.LV are very proud to have you here and listening to our conference. Before we start with our first talk of today, I would like to provide a few housekeeping rules. Now, the first one, and I think the most important one, is asking questions. Please do ask questions over the Discord channel or over the YouTube channel live stream. We are going to collect them and provide them to our speakers. Additionally, we do encourage you to get in touch with our speakers, get more information out of them, challenge them, and question them to get more out of this event. Now with this, I would like to open up the first speaker for the day. And this is where we're going to take a venture into the darker spaces, into the darknet, and looking at what happens there and how we can harness the information that we gather to our advantage in there. Please welcome Artūrs. Welcome to the studio. Good to have you.
Yeah, it's glad to be here. It's glad to be here, and hope that actually today's online event will be the same successful as it was past year. It was very excellent, and thank you, Tet, for inviting us. Most probably, many of the audience already know me. I'm Artūrs Filatovs. I'm representing company Tet and especially company's cybersecurity services and the team of cybersecurity service what we offer in Baltic market and post-Soviet Union markets as an export product. And today with me together is Miguel Esparza. Hi, Jose. Can you hear us?
Hi everyone.
Yeah, and Jose is my colleague when we always start the discussions about how what is happening in deep web, in the dark web, and that dark side. Jose is always able to help me to answer those questions and actually give me valid intel about what actually our cyber criminals are going to do or planning to do. So that's why we also wanted to share this information together with Jose today to you. And our topic is ransomware tales from the deep web. And so, Jose, maybe a few intro words about yourself or so.
Yeah, short intro. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much to the organization, to CERT, to letting me speak here. I am Jose Miguel Esparza, and the head of threat intelligence at Blueliv. Blueliv is a European threat intelligence company based in the sunny Barcelona. And my background has been always analyzing malware, threat analysis, gathering more intelligence about who is behind the botnets, what are the attackers that are causing all these threats. Of course, speaking with other industry peers to exchange information and law enforcement to fight cybercrime.
Thank you, Jose. Most probably you will later on, after my small intro, will share much deeper info about your actually daily work and how complex and hard sometimes it can be. Anyways, yeah, today we will kind of try to explain and try to cover a couple of interesting fields. One will be definitely the ransomware as a service. And this is also what we are seeing from the side of the Tet, that we are seeing, that mainly and more effectively also in our region, ransomware as a service is striking our companies, and we will definitely try to analyze this a little bit. Of course, about the access and about the dark web and the dark market, how we can buy the accesses, are there access for Latvian companies or Baltic companies? So we will also try to see about that a little bit, and of course some thoughts from our side how you could protect yourself from that, and then how actually you can prepare yourself for ransomware attacks or any other kind of cybercriminal attacks that could happen. Nevertheless, I will start a small intro, and the thing that I want to say to the audience is actually you will get breached, and this is maybe this is very loud, very loud promise or so, but this is what we are seeing daily here in our region. If some years ago we were able to talk that our region is not interested, and we have small companies, no one is kind of trying to do something with us or so. There in the world there are much bigger companies, much better economics. So the cyber criminals will focus that part. Then right now we are seeing that it's changing, and the breaches, it's ransomware breaches, data breaches, or actually kind of email interruptions and exchanges of different payments data, and so it's happening here monthly, weekly, daily. And actually, this is what we as citizens and we as a small medium enterprises are getting out. So if we are looking on the worldwide map, of course, the losses what our company sometimes has 180k euros what they paid to the criminals, or 60,000 euros in cases when the ransomware kind of money request was there, or even in a smaller amount. Maybe those amounts are not so big in worldwide, but if you're looking on our economy, on our company's revenues, then those numbers sometimes are such big that the company is out of the business. And it's happening here too, and also we have sometimes been part of the cybersecurity expert teams. So when organizations invite us and ask help after ransomware hit, how fast they could bring up everything, and how fast they could put the business again running, it's sometimes very long period, and it takes even months to do that. And sometimes, of course, this is a better situation, the timing is easier, but nevertheless the costs are very high. And actually the past year also went in direction of geometrical progression of what cyber criminals receive. So we have become as cyber criminal investors, we could say like that even. So we're investing, I believe, more in the wrong area, because of the very long period of getting back from the ransomware hit or from the cyber attacks, we sometimes choose to invest in cyber criminals. We choose to pay. And even in US, in the latest Colonial Pipeline situations, or in different other ones, we see that actually the companies are paying. Nevertheless, the government is saying no. And this again is giving special tools to criminals to actually create new attacks, because they have investments, they have time, they could buy technologies, and so on, and again create those attacks to us. So my perspective would be think about pain. We here also have the situation that we were invited in ransomware hit, and the organization chose to pay, even though we kind of highlighted that please do not do that. But anyways, think about where you are investing. because your investment in cybercrime sometimes could harm different company. Nevertheless, your business will go forwards, and maybe you will kind of learn from that attack, but the other ones will be affected. And of course, be proactive. This is also one of my kind of mottos, if you could say like that. And I would say that we need to be ready before we know it, that we need to be ready like that. So there, in the dark web, in the deep web, there is a lot of information that right now are selling around. The Jose also showed that we also have accounts who are being selling. The criminals are selling those from our region to access some of our business IT systems. And there are a lot of those situations that we could also doing some let's say analysis of deep web. We could find a lot of information about local companies. So I would not say come to the dark side. I would say be somewhere in the gray side. So it depends how deep you are able to go. The ocean is very deep. And then Jose most probably will show it today how deep it is, because I think he went there very, very deep sometimes, maybe till the end of the ocean. So I would say be proactive, be ready, look in the dark web, be accurate, and of course try to gather the intelligence what actually you could gather with your skills and try to translate this intelligence information into the language with your IT security tools could understand. Jose, I believe that you could share a little bit more info about the dark side for our
sure. Let me share it. Okay, can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thanks, Artur. Yes, I will continue from here. Before I go deep into how ransomware groups are moving and what are they doing in the deep web, I would like to first do a quick overview about the evolution of ransomware in all these years. I was doing a little research to find out that the first Trojan that was using ransomware tactics was the AIDS Trojan, what is called the AIDS Trojan. It was back in 1989. Okay? This was a virus that was distributed by a professor doing a World Health Conference. It was distributed using floppy disk and just handing over the disks. So this was kind of rudimentary, but it was kind of working. It was kind of some kind of protest. It was trying to encrypt the file names, encrypt the files also. And the payment was done through a postal office box in Panama. Okay, so it's kind of interesting how far we can go with this ransomware and how this was kind of the very first one. Then in 2004, we see GPCO being popular, a bit popular. This was basically the typical ransomware encrypting the files, and it was being distributed by malicious spam campaigns, so what we call mal spam. It had some cryptographic flow, so it was easy to recover. And the payment at that time was made using Ucash. That it is a popular payment method at that time, okay, by the bad guys. It's a gift card, basically. Then in 2011, we had the police ransomware and the group called Riveton. So basically, this malware was not really encrypting the files, but it was locking the screen of the victims. So you could see this police announcement saying that you were doing something wrong, that you were dealing with child pornography, that you have software without license, and that you have to pay a fine to them. Okay, so it was easy again to unlock this screen, but a lot of people were paying for it, and this group was getting a lot of money also. The payment method at that time, it was again Ucash, Paysafe cards, so gift cards, but also money pack. It was kind of similar in that way. Then in 2013, we get something really interesting because this is the first crypto locker. So crypto locker was basically operated by Slavic, and Slavic was operating at that time the Game Over Zeus botnet. It was a banking botnet, okay? And it was quite successful. They were getting a lot of money from clients of banks from all the world, okay? So they decided, Slavic decided to distribute CryptoLocker, so a ransomware, to some specific sub-botnets of this botnet. Because, you know, Game Over Zeus had different sub-botnets, and these sub-botnets were operated by different threat actors also. So he chose to spread this ransomware CryptoLocker to some of his sub-botnets, okay? So we can consider this some kind of semi-targeted approach because it was choosing specific botnets and then sending them the ransomware, but it was distributed to all the bots there. So it was kind of also widespread. So we are not getting to the point that it was targeted ransomware. The thing is that in the short life of this botnet, it was from September 2013 until June 2014, when there was the takedown of the Game Over Zeus botnet performed by the FBI together with other companies, private companies like Fox IT, CrowdStrike, and Dell SecureWorks. Then the Game Over Zeus was taken down, and also the CryptoLocker operation was taken down. The thing is that a lot of information about this operation went public, and then the bad guys realized that it was really successful operation for the cyber criminals. They were getting a lot of money using this kind of malware, this kind of tactics of getting the malware, encrypting the files, and then asking for the money. And then it became really, really popular. At that time, also, it was the boom of Bitcoin. So it was kind of the first ransomware that was asking the ransom to be paid using Bitcoin also, even if the majority of the money was paid using money back. Okay. So this is highlighted in red, the CryptoLocker there in the timeline, because of that, because it was really, really game-changing at that time. So until then, the majority of the cybercriminals were playing with banking Trojans. So from 2000 until 2015, more or less, it was the popular thing, banking Trojans. But then after CryptoLocker, the cybercriminals moved to ransomware. So there was in 2014 when there was really a ransomware boom. A lot of variants were created, a lot of copycats of CryptoLocker. So for example, CryptoWall, Torrent Locker, CTV Locker. There also the outage of WannaCry was happening in those years. So it was really the beginning of all this boom that we have today. Also, operators of relevant banking botnets, like for example, Dridex, they were starting to spread ransomware at that time. If you remember Loki was kind of popular as kind of one of the first ransomware that was widespread because it was using the Dridex botnet. And the payment at that time was, again, using cryptocurrencies. That's why in those years, in 2016, the no more ransom initiative appeared because there were so many variants. The threat was so popular, it was affecting so much that something needed to be done. And at that time also, because not just advanced cybercriminals were using ransomware, but also not so advanced cybercriminals were coding. They were adding cryptographic flows, and it was really easy to add, to find those flows and create some decryptors to decrypt all these encrypted files. And that's what the No More Ransom initiative was doing also. But then in 2017, we start to see the first targeted attacks. And we start to see that with BitPaymer and with Ryuk. Both of them were operated by groups that were also behind banking fraud. So BitPaymer was operated by the Dridex gang, and Ryuk was operated by the TrickBot group. Okay, and this is the first time that we're seeing that they are not just distributing this to everyone through mild spam, for example. They are using the existing infections of Dridex or, for example, TrickBot to go into the machines to extract credentials using Mimikatz, for example, to move laterally, to jump from machine to machine, to take the time to find out and to explore the network of the victim, finding out the most critical systems, and then at the same time, spreading and deploying the ransomware in different machines at the same time to cause the maximum chaos possible, and then ask for the ransom. So doing a lot of harm, it was really painful for the companies. And also the ransomware amounts were getting high and high because the pain that we're doing to the companies was also really, really high. It was critical. Some of them were even going bankrupt. So this was also again changing in this overview of the ransomware, because we passed to be really popular but widespread to everyone. So you can get a malspam for you from ransomware. But then in 2017, we start to see just targeted attacks and start to see that this is really popular and is really beneficial for the cybercriminals. Okay, the payment is still here in Bitcoins. And then we see that last year, we all saw what happened. There was a boom also in the targeted attacks that we saw. There are more and more groups doing this kind of attacks, just targeted attacks, because we were not seeing anymore so many attacks related to domestic companies. And the bad guys are trying to get into the machines of the companies, big companies, and asking for a lot of money right now, as you know. And they are doing that buying accesses, as I will tell you later, or also trying to find vulnerabilities or expose systems that are not really well secure, etc. So the future of this really is, I don't think targeted ransomware is going to be away anytime soon. They're going to keep working in perpetrating the networks and improving the techniques. And maybe in the future, we'll also see the comeback of domestic ransomware when, for example, IoT devices are more and more used, even cars, ransomware for cars. So after this overview of the evolution of ransomware, the evolution of ransomware is also tied to the evolution of cybercrime. So before, cybercrime was just not centralized. It was kind of everyone's doing their own thing. Now there are services. The cybercrime is a whole industry, as you know. There are a lot of things in the deep web that you can buy, a lot of services. If you don't have malware, you don't have to code it yourself. You can just buy it. You have some Bitcoin, you can just buy the code, and then you can spread. If you don't know how to spread your malware, then you can also buy a paper install service, and they can do it for you. So everything, you can have a bonded tomorrow. If you go to the deep web, you have some Bitcoins, even if not having a lot of knowledge, technical knowledge. And this is the same thing that is the ransom groups are doing in the deep web. They're also buying services. They're also offering their services as ransomware as a service. That will explain a bit. They are also using the deep web to publish information of their victims to try to do this double extortion. Okay, that will also explain. You know, when they are stealing information, besides encrypting all the files, encrypting all the systems, they are stealing information. And if the victims don't pay, then they are threatening to publish all this information that is usually really confidential. So talking about the ransomware as a service, I bet you are familiar with the concept of malware as a service. This is the same. I'm paying you an amount. It could be, depending on the business model, it could be, for example, a fixed monthly or yearly amount, or I can get, for example, a commission for every payment that a victim does, okay, for instance. This can be also a one-time payment. So this is basically the same as malware as a service, just move to the ransomware as a service and to the ransomware threat. So you can do also one payment and nothing more. That is not so usual. And you can also try to become partner of another person that it's popular. You know the reference of this person. Okay? So this is what happens in the deep web. There is this kind of business model behind the ransomware as a service. And all these deals can be public or can be private. So for instance, maybe there are ransomware service programs that you cannot access because I'm speaking about you, like thinking about the cyber criminal mind, okay? I'm not telling you that you should do this. So you can access because this is just reserved to some groups. You need some vetting, you need to know people, you need some references there. You cannot access this kind of ransomware service programs. But there are others that are public, and these public programs must be advertised somewhere, and this is in the deep web. So for example, here we can see the Blueliv ransomware group offering this affiliate program to the people. So it depends. They normally get between 20 and 30% of the payments that the victims are doing. Okay? So the affiliate is going to be in charge of the infection, so getting into the networks, spreading the malware, etc. And then the operators of the ransomware service program, they are going to get this cut of 20-30% of the payments. This is an example of the DarkSide ransomware group speaking in an underground forum in the deep web. And in this case, this is Thanos ransomware looking for affiliates. So at the end, what kind of information can give us tracking these ransomware as a service programs and these advertisements in the deep web? Well, this is going to give us a lot of information and intelligence about how the threat actors are operating. So for example, how active they are, what business models they have, and what are the money that we are charging, what is the cut, 20, 30%, who is interested in these programs. So how many people are responding to these threats in the forums? Is there any detractor, for example, of the group, or is there people speaking bad about the group? So this can give you hints about how the group is considered in the cybercrime world, in the cybercrime ecosystem, and also how active this group is. So this is basically intelligence that can help you to build a threat actor profile of these groups. Then we have the leak sites. So the leak sites is, as I was telling you before, this is where the bad guys, the cyber criminals, are going to publish their victims. They're going to add their a countdown and say, okay, after the countdown, I'm going to publish this information. So normally they show a proof that they have this information because they stole that during the intrusion. They are usually going to publish this in the same leak site, or maybe using, if it's really big, the leak. They're going to use peer-to-peer networks like Torrent, for example. So those leak sites are usually in the deep web, not normally in the ClearNet, but some cases there are that the leak sites are hosted in the ClearNet, but usually they are under the Tor network, and usually not really stable. Sometimes they are down, sometimes they go up, etc. This is an example of a leak site of Conti. And you can see there on the bottom here, you can see that in this case, there is one company that, and the data was published, 100% of the data was published. In this other case, on the left, we can see that just 1% of the data was published, and it was, this victim was published the 5th of October, okay? So, in this case, this is another example of the leak site of Blueliv. So again, seeing the different countdowns, seeing the different information about the company, because normally they add information about the company, like the revenue, how big the company is, a bit of description that they get from other public sites. In this case, this is an example of a victim of Revol. And as I was saying before, when they steal information, they need to prove that they have this information. So in this case, they usually, in these leak sites, they also offer some documents to make sure that the victim knows that they have information that it was not possible to have if they didn't really breach the company. This case is Ragnarok, the Ragnarok leak site. We can see they're an Estonian company. So the information that we can get from these leak sites is also helpful to build this threat actor profile, as I was saying before. We can know out what kind of victims there are there. Are they from the same industry sector? Are they from the same country, from the same region? So this can help you to know, okay, this actor is going widespread. They don't care really about the kind of sector or kind of country or region, or they are just trying to attack a specific country. And spoiler here, they don't care at all. They try to target everyone as long as they have a good revenue and they can pay a lot of money. So that's the kind of the summary after seeing a lot of leak sites and after seeing different victimology from the different ransomware groups. You can see also, thank you to leak site to these leak sites, you can see how active they are. If they are, how many victims per day, per week they have, and also when they are negotiating or not. For example, when the countdown goes to 0, if they don't publish stuff right away, it could be from different reasons, right? It will be that they just they are on vacation and they cannot publish information. It could be an option, but it could be also that after the countdown, they are negotiating with the company. Depends also if after this time they publish something or they don't publish anything, or even they remove the victim, because sometimes they do this. They remove victims that they paid from the leak sites. So that's also giving you hints and intelligence about what's happening with this group. And then we have the third point that I was mentioning, initial access. So there is this kind of profile of cybercriminal in the forums, in the deep web, that it's offering and selling accesses, illegal access to companies. So they have vulnerabilities, or they have direct access, the credentials to companies, and they are selling this. The price really depends on how important is the access, how important is the company, what are the permissions and privileges that they are giving with this access. I can go from $1,000, for example, to $100,000, for example. So to a lot of money. Really depends on the amount and on the size of the company. Talking about initial access, besides this option, the ransomware groups can go in this option, can do it themselves, the homework, let's say, and they can, for example, scan for vulnerabilities for a specific company, and they can try to perpetrate by themselves, or they can just buy this access using initial access brokers. So this is going to be easier for them. It's going to be faster. They have to pay something, but probably the return of investment of doing this is going to be really good for them. So in this case, for example, we see Trilog trying to look for, as you see there, Citrix, VPN, or VP corporate targets. And sometimes they have some kind of ethics here, because they don't want medical, so companies in medical field, schools, universities, because on non-profit institutions. So they want to just target companies with a lot of revenue and nothing to do with hospitals, for example. This is not the case. This is not happening in all the cases, as you know, because of the news. In this case, we see the Black Matter group, again, trying to look for accesses, and they mention accesses in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in UK, also trying to avoid certain sectors like medicine, in this case also state institutions. And they're also trying to say how much they are going to pay for this. So as you can see there, from 3 to 100K. In this case, we see a cybercriminal. This guy is an initial access broker. In this case, it's not a ransomware group trying to look for accesses, but in this case, is their own initial access broker offering their services, offering the vulnerabilities, offering the accesses. So here, this guy is offering access to two banks, one in Poland and one in France. For example, you can see the price there. For the bank in Poland, he wants to get at least $1,500. So not all these initial access brokers are related to ransomware and to really big accesses and to perpetrate the company and to move laterally. Some of them are also accessing information of shops, WordPress shops, for example. They have a lot of privileges in the shops, like this one or this one. And basically from there, the use case is a bit different. It's not about ransomware. It's mainly about, for example, stealing the credit cards from the shop, from the people that are going to buy the stuff from the shop. They will get information from the credit cards and they will extract that information, for instance. I was saying before that it's not just initial access brokers being used in the deep web, because as you saw probably in the news, the bad guys, the ransomware groups, are also trying to get into the minds of the employees. So they are trying to buy these employees with a lot of money to get access into the companies. So it's not just that you can get there from the deep web, but they are also trying to connect directly to employees, trying to find a weak link there to go into the company. So at the end, how are we going to extract all this intelligence and how we can use it? Okay, so I was mentioning leak sites. I was mentioning different underground forums that we can get this information from. There are also other sources in the internet. They could be, for example, Twitter accounts that are also tracking underground forums. Then we can get a lot of information from there. Of course, the deep web is going to be the direct access to information. And I say direct because depending on the forum, it's not so easy to get in. Okay. Then you can also get information about these groups with your own intelligence. Maybe you are doing your own investigation, and then you are getting your own TTPs, your own intelligence to put all this together. And of course, the research community is also a good source to have information about the threat groups. So at the end, for example, in the case of deep web, or in case of all the other, you're going to have different collectors. For example, for the deep web, you will have collectors trying to crawl all the different forums to get the information. In the case of the research community, it could be that you are getting information from the feeds, for instance, or maybe you have a MISP instance that you can get information from. Then with all this information, you will try to enrich the data and you are going to try to get relations out of that. Because maybe you are getting information from this group, from this source, and then from this other source, you get another bit of this information for the same actor. And then you have to try to correlate and put all this information together. Usually, thanks to some post-processing, putting all this information in a database, for example. And then we pass to the third phase that is going to visualize this data and make this data available. So you can create some kind of Wikipedia of threat actors thanks to threat actor profiling. I was mentioning before threat actor profiling. I think it's really, really important doing threat actor profiling because for a specific group, and I was speaking about Lockybit before, you could have, for example, like a card saying, okay, the leak site is this, the TTPs are this, based on a MITRE attack, for example, and then visualize a matrix about the different TTPs that this group is using. You can retrieve the latest campaigns from the research community, for example. IOCs, for example, victimology, you can get that from the leak sites. And you put all this information together under one specific card related to the threat actor. That's what I mean with threat actor profiling. In the case of tracking underground forums, it's not easy, as I was saying before, because they can also put some problems for the tracking and they can put some anti-analysis, anti-crawling. But the idea when you are tracking these forums is trying to get information about who is who in the forum. So this user has so many threats related to this specific activity. It could be carding, it could be initial access brokers, it could be I'm selling credentials, for example, or I'm selling a malware kit. Then you can see how many people and what users are responding and are interested about this specific subject. So you start doing and extracting intelligence out of this crawling and knowing how they are all related. So you could see that this person is active in this forum, but also is active in this other forum because the nick is the same, and maybe you confirm that is the same actor because they are using, for example, the same contact information. And then when you are getting information from the community, from feeds, for instance, as I was saying, you can get information about the different campaigns, the latest campaigns, the tools that they are using, the OCs, the different TTPs, the behavior when they are attacking, and the victimology also. So I was speaking before about the attack matrix, and I think this is really helpful because when you have, not sure if you know the attack navigator, I bet you are, but what you can do is try to group information about the different attack patterns and different techniques related to different groups. So maybe you have 5 groups and you have the techniques for each of the group. What you can do is put all these techniques together and then give scores to the different techniques. And also depending on how important is a group. So for example, 3 groups are using spear phishing with attachment, then this technique is going to be a higher score into my matrix. And basically this is what you are seeing here and what I'll tell you later a bit. The darker the color red is the score is higher. And then visually, you can see basically what are the most important techniques per tactic. So for example, for initial access, maybe all the ransomware groups are using spear phishing with attachment, or they are using valid accounts to go into the victims. So these are the first techniques that you have to defend. And this about defense is what I was speaking. No, all this information that you get from the deep web is all intelligence that is going to help you to build these threat actor profiles. The threat actor profiles are going to help you to know what kind of actors are going to attack your organization, and already filtering these actors, you are going to see how these actors can attack you, and doing what I was telling you, this nice matrix with different colors showing the priorities and showing the importance of the different techniques and the ones that you have to defend first. Okay. So just to wrap it up a bit, the deep web is an interesting place to be meaning that you need to track what is happening there, what the bad guys are doing there, what they are selling, what they are buying, what these ransomware groups are doing there. Targeted ransomware is here to stay. It's going to disappear tomorrow. It's going to probably get worse in the future, so with more advanced techniques. Tracking the deep web is going to help us to know, for example, the different business models of these groups. We're going to get information about the victimology, what kind of victims are being targeted by these groups. If they are using, for example, initial access brokers to go into the victims. And at the end, as I was saying before, the best defense is knowing your enemies. So you need to do some threat actor profiling, and you need threat intelligence and insights about the actors to defend yourself. So that's basically it. Now I think there is time for some questions.
Right. Jose Miguel, thank you for the presentation. Let's go into having a chat. Let's discuss a few things. I will maybe try to ask provocative questions as well, just diving deeper into this maybe secret sauce of your product or the secrets of how to collect information. But let's start with a few that come from our viewers. So actually, let's start with one of mine. Not always ransomware is something when someone wants to extort money. Sometimes ransomware could have different objectives, just to stop the operation of a target institution. How often would you say this could be the option seen in the adversary, or typically the money is the case, just getting paid by the ransom?
From my experience, what I have seen is that in most of the cases, I will say that money is behind all that. But it's true that, for example, in the case of WannaCry, there were some theories saying that it was not really the money behind that, but it was meant to be to cause chaos and to try what was happening with this. So I will say, I don't know, maybe 90% or maybe 95% of the cases is going to be financially motivated. But it's true that in some cases, yes, the same as they're attacking, for example, critical infrastructure, this could be also the case that they can use ransomware for these cases. But I will say it is not the normal case.
Right. When we're talking about leaked data, we assume that once the data is leaked, there is no way on getting it back, right? So when threatened with publishing leaked data, so someone threatens you, we're going to publish it and ask for the money, should paying be seen only as buying time? Because, I mean, the attackers already have the data. Buying time, most likely I would understand in getting the right response or getting stuff in order from you as a company who has been suffering from this.
It's a tricky question because at the end, if it depends on the kind of information that they stole from you, but probably that's with this they are also playing in the negotiation. At the end, there's going to be a negotiation, and there is a risk, and the company has to evaluate how important is this. So if you think that the publication of this information is going to cause your company to go down, to go bankrupt, I think paying, even if it's not the advice or recommended way, maybe it's the only way for your company to survive. But maybe they are just saying that they have some information they don't have. So that can also be possible in order for you to pay. So it's tricky. So in that case, I will say my recommendation will be doing the work in your network, trying to see what kind of information was exfiltrated, to have all the information for you to take the right decision.
Right. I mean, when you pay, deciding that it's paid, what is the trust level against the hacker of not releasing the data even after you've paid? Have you seen anything like this? I mean, we know that people are different, right? And hackers are people and they can release data even if you paid, right?
Yeah, I think this was happening, for example, I mean, before the double extortion thing, in the boom of the ransomware in 2014, there were a lot of times that the people were paying and they were not getting the files decrypted. That was not causing, there was not really a good business for the bad guys, let's say, because if you do that, people are not going to pay. So if you pay, if the information is being released, then the future people that are being threatened, they will not pay. So I will say it's not so common to pay, and I'm not saying that you have to pay. I'm just saying that in some cases, that's the only option for the company.
All right.
I could maybe add because we also have seen such situation in local region, and sometimes the company chooses to pay because this was a faster way to get everything back. Criminals send a warranty that they will not do anything else in the future for them. Cybercriminals send a report saying that we did this like that, and this was your vulnerability or so. And then basically, some of the management say we believe that. So they gave a strong word that they will not do it anymore, and everything is fine. Though this group especially maybe will not do this anymore because they gave a word, but they will definitely sell the data further on, and some other group will try to use the data again and receive the money. So that's why first thing is, if you choose to pay, definitely, as Jose told you, need to investigate why it's happened, from where it started, and cover those, let's say, holes and repair this, so this will not happen in the future. And also you need to understand that encryption is not happening in seconds. So meaning that backdoor is a lot of long period there sometimes, and also you need to think about the backups and the RAAS. So this means that you need to rewind a little bit back and see when it started, because sometimes putting from the backup up is not helping, because the bad guys are already in the backup.
Thank you for appending on this question. Jose, before I want to dive a bit in depth into info collection. I mean, information is the key for actionable intelligence. Now, if we're talking about, doesn't matter, deep web, dark web, how can we collect the information? Specifically, how can we identify a trusted source of a forum or a user that we may then approach either for collecting information or getting further actionable data from there?
Well, trusting in underground forums is a bit tricky. It's the key, as the same as we have trusted groups in cybersecurity. They also have their trusted groups, and they are vettings, and they are important information, and you know who you have to trust. But if we're thinking about the collecting of information, when you are interacting with the bad guys, you never know. I mean, you can know, for example, how is the reputation of this person, of this threat actor in the forum, and this can give you hints. But you have to think that you cannot trust 100% always these kind of actors when you're interacting with them. So some of them can be okay, can be trustful, some of them not. So the idea is trying to collect the information without trying to decide if it's trustful or not. You just get the information, and then after that, you will decide if what the information is trustful or not. The idea is just try to get all the information, and then from there, try to post-process, try to say, okay, this actor, for example, is also in this other group, and this other forum, and this other forum has a good reputation in this other, not because he just registered, for example, but maybe correlating these two facts can give you hints about how reputed is the actor.
Right, and the trust there in those communities has to work both ways. I mean, not only that I should trust that, yes, you sell or you provide a valuable information, but in order to get access to this information, they should kind of establish the trust to me. And as you mentioned, there's someone who recommends you to approach, so there's some kind of a chain of the trust. So how do you build it? And especially if you want to automate it, how do you automate it, if at all? Can this be automated to gather the information, the intelligence, as quickly as possible? And if automation is possible at all, or it is a fully human 24/7 job?
So yes, I mean, there is one part that you can automate, that is getting the public information that is there. But of course, if you want to get the juicy details, you have to go manual, let's say. So you have to interact, you have to build a persona that they can trust, and then from there you can get information. So yes, there's one part that you can automate, but other that you can't.
Right, so pretty much once you get there, it's a team effort from your side as intelligence collectors to kind of work that area and get as much information out.
Yeah.
I mean, but ransomware as a service operators or whoever, they're aware that we as a security personnel are going to be there on their channels. What are the methods that they are taking to protect themselves? I mean, they're going to be very protective. Is there something very unique or unique approaches that they could take to defend against this?
I think what they do is that they don't discuss all publicly. I mean, they advertise their services, like for example, the ransomware as a service program, that they are going to tell you the deals about the operation with this partner that they just found, about what's the cut that they will get, etc. So this is the generic approach, but then the details and the specific things, they are going to discuss that privately. You are going to get access to there unless you are kind of infiltrated in this.
Right. So multiple circles of trust. This is what has been built around it. Now, as one of the final questions from my side is, you mentioned data leaks. And one of the data leaks that just happened is the Twitch data leak, right? Would we be able to anticipate or predict that this might happen, a data leak might happen, not necessarily Twitch related, by analyzing the information there on the dark or deep web?
That's tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky.
So predict, I think that's not possible. I think predict that. You can try to prevent this. Of course, trying to improve your security, etc. You can try to track if there was some exfiltration You can use some services to see if your information is out there. For example, if your credentials were stolen, for instance. But predicting that someone is going to attack you, it's a bit, I mean, in some cases, for example, you can see chatting about, I'm looking for access to this specific, no, not a specific company, but a company in this sector or in this country. So thanks to that, maybe it can give you some hints about what the actors are trying to do. But yeah, it's tricky to know the specific company is going to be breached or they are working into the breach, because normally this information is not public.
I will take one final question from the audience, and I mean, data leakage prevention. We know what it is. Some of us has implemented this. Would you say going for analytics of the darknet is better than DLP to protect ourselves against data leakage, or identifying the data leaks have occurred from our institution, or it's a both ways?
Yeah, I think it's not that you have to choose from one or the other. I think you should go both ways, because from one side you are trying to identify what information was leaked from your company, and from the other side you are getting intelligence from the bad guys that is going to help you to defend yourself. So I will say you need both to have a more secure posture.
Right. With this, thank you, Jose Miguel. Thank you, Artūrs. Thank you for being here in the studio with us. And thank you also to all of you who've been asking questions. However, if the talkers, the speakers will join the Discord channel, please make sure that you use them to your advantage and ask as many questions as possible. Now we are going out for a short break, but after the break, we'll be here with the stories about how to deal with Kerberos security and how to identify vulnerabilities and use them to your benefit. So stay tuned. We'll be back just in a short break.